So here's an interesting situation. It is through the mind, it is through one's mind that we are creating our realities. So it is also through the mind that we are creating suffering. We could say happiness and distress. It is through the mind that we are creating happiness and distress. And through meditation, this is the process of alert awareness through witnessing, through watching, becoming the witness of the mind's activity. And given the fact that it's through the mind that is the continual source of this creation of happiness and distress, then indeed it is, and we have to admit that in fact happiness and distress are the two sides of the same coin. But that can be a later subject. But for right now, let's contemplate the fact that the unobserved mind is therefore the source of suffering and indeed recklessness. So if the mind is that powerful, as we know, to create worlds, to create happiness and distress, then as a prerequisite to liberation, if you like, to peacefulness, to insight, to intelligence, higher intelligence, is to continually observe the mind. Because it's the unobserved mind that is the cause of suffering. So to just find time to sit there and just observe the mind, slowly start to create an inner peace. And then as we go about our day, we can certainly still perform activities, but as this witnessing presence, rather than falling into the mind itself and creating more ego, more suffering. In the same way, if we can imagine, let's say, a drunk driver behind the wheel of a car, and he's really quite inebriated, and he's just driving down the street out of control. Like, okay, so that's an extreme example of an accident just waiting to happen. So the driver's lost control. It's like that on the cover often of the Bhagavad Gita we see depicted, trying to rein in the horses. Is the driver, is he in control or out of control? So therefore the mind, actually, though it doesn't have to be controlled as such, control's not the best word. It's the unobserved mind that's out of control, because the unobserved mind means we fall into the mind and we become identified with the mind, a misidentification with the mind. So an unobserved mind is just an accident waiting to happen. Because it's going to be going in all sorts of different directions. Again, you could say the uncontrolled mind certainly is just an accident waiting to happen. But through observation, through witnessing, through watching, this process of vipassana, meditation, the mind comes under control because there's a higher dimension, our consciousness, a higher intelligence that is supreme over the mind. But when we fall into ignorance, we think we are the mind, we become too heavily identified with it. It runs amok. So again, it just keeps bringing back the fact of this paramount importance of keep being the witness. Keep being the witness.